call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
Well, welcome back once again to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, we're going to add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now this time it will be another elusive Walmart exclusive, the gold label DC versus Vampires Batman. Now, in my hunting the last couple of days, I was only able to find one of these on the shelves. I'm pretty sure somebody beat me to it because I had gone to this Walmart 2 days before, and when I went in there, basically the same figures. I think maybe that was something new, but there was only one of these gold labels on the shelves. I went ahead and picked them up, but I still will be looking for one more to have for my unopened mint tin box collection. In fact, in all honesty, this is a figure that at first I thought, I'm not going to really be too excited about, but we will go ahead and take a look at him and see what he brings to the table. Now, he does look pretty dark in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. But first, he does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. Now, these are not really needed, but sometimes they do come in useful. He also comes with a data file card. On the front, you do have some source material from DC versus Vampires. And on the back, you do have some information. Now, don't know much about this series as I don't currently read too much comic books, but from the images I was able to obtain online, looks pretty interesting. Looks like the whole DC universe is going up against vampires. A lot of characters have become vampirized, and this kind of leads me back to when I first heard of this figure. I was hoping that it was going to be one on the Crimson Mist storyline, which is like a 90s classic, character. This does have a DC Direct release, but it's kind of expensive. I've been on the fence of picking one up, but I also was hoping that McFarlane would do his own take on this character design, so we'll have to wait and see. But for right now, this is cool. We'll go ahead and add this to the collection. Now, he does come with one accessory, which is pretty nice actually, and this is from the cover of one of the comics, and that is that it's kind of like a battle axe with a bat emblem, but also the tip of it is, I guess I would assume, is like a silver spike and used to kill vampires. So this is one thing that kind of adds to the fun factor that might be unassuming with this figure, is I think not so much the figure itself, but I think actually like his fun factor and the ability to put him into different situations, fighting a regular Batman or fighting zombies or just into like vampiric situations. That's going to be the fun part about this figure. Not necessarily the way he was, executed, but the fun factor just might be there. But pretty cool accessory. This could be used, in a lot of figure photography and stuff like that. So we'll definitely add this to the collection. Now let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. Now, as I said, not expecting much from this guy, but let's go ahead and see how he looks. Actually, the head sculpt is probably the best part of this figure. Gives him that vampiric, battle damaged look. But one thing for sure, I'm not a big fan of the whole peg socket head articulation. It's kind of sad that Batman Year 2 and Hush Batman have this same neck peg with the static head on it. Now, the only time I've seen this done correctly was on the Kickstarter Spawn, because you have the neck peg, but the head also articulates. So that means if you want to leave the neck peg, straight on, it just adds a little bit more because the head actually moves on its own. So the neck peg is just used for a little bit more tilt this way or that way. But in this version, the way they do it, it's primarily used to move the head around. So some things look really good, but some things are just not gonna look as good as you would like. But first impressions of the figure, I'm kind of liking the paint job. It's like a dark suit color scheme. This kind of reminds me of in Batman Begins when Scarecrow gets the gas on him, and then he sees that like dark, kind of wet Batman. This kind of like gives me those vibes, but it is kind of like a, I want to say like a bronze or like kind of a some kind of metal, a dark metal, which is weird because you could say just brown, but it is not just brown. It has a little bit of a sheen to it, which gives it that metallic vibe. All in all, looks pretty creepy. Looks interesting to have on the shelf. So let's go ahead and take a look at the head sculpt. Now, this head sculpt has to be one of the better head sculpts, even though it's like a random version, a vampiric version. But just the creepy factor in here, and the sculpt work, and the paint actually is really well done. You do have like a wound here on top of the forehead. Really, really nice head sculpt. I mean, the eyes are done really well. Basically, just something to give you nightmares. But yeah, awesome, awesome head sculpt, especially for the theme of a vampiric Batman. So simple, gets the job done, but it looks really nice. Let's take a look at the articulation now. He actually looks down extremely well. I think this is the best way to use him, is to like take shots from below, because looking down he looks really menacing. But your problem is going to be looking up, since the neck peg doesn't move back at all. And also you start to get some gap in the front part of the lower part of the neck. So you get that gap and you don't really want to push it back anymore, because it's going to expose that gap. I mean, honestly, I only do this so you guys could see, but I went ahead and modded the neck peg, but it's actually now it's the head. Instead of usually you drill a hole into the porthole of the neck, but this time it's actually in the neck, because the head comes completely off of the hole here. But it does add a little bit of range backwards, but it's so minimal that I would suggest not even doing this, because it just doesn't add anything to it. And of course you get that big gap right above the chest. Now, one thing it did do is it loosened up the head to where it's really nice to articulate around and get into different positions. But as far as looking up, it adds the minimalist advantages, but it still does not look that good. I mean, from depending on how you pose them, it might look good, but it's still not. I just wouldn't suggest it, but I went ahead and did it. So my figure can actually kind of look up, even if it is kind of like a stiff look to it. But of course you can get side to side, right to left. And you can tilt the head still for some character. Now, it does work really well, like in a straight up position. You get a lot of cool movement, tilting, and of course, like I said, looking down is really nice. But the articulation is kind of restricted, and that just always comes with these neck pegs. I mean, they really should make the head separate from the neck peg, and it would actually be like the ultimate articulation, because you could keep it you could keep the neck like static, and then just use the neck for like a little bit of accent. But it is what it is. We're gonna have to work with it. Now, looking down at the emblem, it is the same emblem as the Hush Batman, but it is on a really broad chest, which looks good. I'm telling you, the paint on this is like a weird metallic, almost like copperish bronze. It's hard to explain, but it actually is growing on me. It looks pretty nice. I'd like to see it like in some dark light ups, would probably look pretty cool. And then you do have the utility belt with the pouches. Uh, Really well done trunks. These trunks are far better than the ones on the Batman Year 2. They just fit nicer and hide the thighs nicer, but pretty well put together figure. Let's take a look at the waist articulation. You do have side to side, and this works actually really nice. Each upper part of the torso hits the belt. You do have that tilt-a-whirl around the waist motion. You do have a lower waist swivel and an upper chest swivel. You can twist them, get him in some pretty cool poses. Now he does have a forward crunch. It's not too much, but it is there. Actually more than I think the Year 2 Batman. He crunches down pretty good where the torso actually almost touches his belt. And then of course you could lean back, get him in some vampiric poses. And then the way I modded it, you could lean his head back and have him like screaming up, into the sky. So that might be a cool figure photography shot to work out. Now he does get the T pose really easily. Kind of moves up a little, but not too much. Going into the shoulder, you do have that socket bushing kind of articulation, a lot of range there. You have up and down, front to back, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. Nice smooth costume. There's really no texturing in here. Moving down into the Batman gauntlets, and then the hands are really cool. You do have that wrist articulation. And then you do have some blood splatter, which you don't really see a lot of figures having. And the blood is really dark because he does have black gloves on. So if there was blood on him, it wouldn't be like like blood on a white shirt. It would be more like blood on a dark cloth. So pretty cool little paint detail there. On the other side, you have the same thing, but you do have a gripping hand for the weapon. Going down to the thigh swivel, let's go ahead and check that out. Now, surprisingly, this guy has a lot of thigh swivel movement, and it is really, really open for movement. I have not heated this guy up at all, and it has a lot of range. This is basically what McFarlane's design is supposed to do. That way you could eliminate that horrible looking thigh cut when all you really want to do is move the boot left to right, and you can actually do that here with ease and without having that unappealing thigh cut. Now he can kick up, can kick back as well. The rubber in the trunks go back to its original form when you put the legs back down. You can cock out the leg. He does have that hip swivel. Double jointed knees, straighten them out, up and down at the ankle, right to left, rocker, and of course toe articulation. Now before we go, let's take a complete look at the lower body. Now this is reuse, of course, from the Hush Batman. Now the Batman Year 2 didn't have the point at the top of the boots, which is really sad because these boots are perfect. They would have fit perfectly with that figure. I do not know why. They could have changed it after in the mold, but I doubt it. But he does have a cool dark paint scheme. So all in all, they got what they were going for. Taking a look at the bottom, no tread, but he does have some identifying marks. Moving up the back, same sculpt work. The back of the belt, the pouches going into the back, and then you do have this cape. Now the cape is kind of stiff, not as soft as some of the other ones, but it does have a nice fold sculpt and line sculpt. And then you have this little part that kind of like creeps to the front, which covers them a little bit. I guess kind of like Dracula, like pulling it over to cover. But you could use this like when you pose them and things like that. So use it to your advantage. All in all, interesting looking figure. Not one of my favorites, but like I said before, I think the thing about this guy is that he's gonna be cool to have in different, situations, photo photography, dark, storylines of a vampiric Batman. All in all, pretty cool. Now, as I said before, I thought this was gonna be more of a Crimson Mist version. I do have the old school Mattel version of this, which is like a vampire style Batman that has like a lanky, thin look. This figure in big size and 7-inch size would be awesome. They could do another take on these wings because these look kind of small. But all in all, for what it is, it was a pretty cool figure to have in the collection. Now, this guy did come with his little, I'm not sure what this is, if it's like a vampire killing dagger, but covered in blood. But I did use this, in this guy's hands just to get an idea, different ideas to have them with. Posing them with this battle axe is also really nice. You could have them attacking Man-Bat, which would also look pretty cool. Tons and tons of possibilities with this character. Now, let's take a look at him just for scale with some other figures. Let's take a look at him next to the Batman Who Laughs as the Batman, just because they both give off like a creepy vibe. Now, this guy is notoriously tall. Wish there was some simple way to just reduce his height a little bit, but it is what it is. You're gonna pose him, put him in pictures, he will work out for what you need. And then, like I said, just for scaling purposes, let's see him next to Atrocitus, which is a really tall figure. And yeah, now he doesn't look as tall anymore because Atrocitus is really huge, but also has that like evil, menacing face sculpt. So all in all, cool figure to add to the collection, but not necessarily something everyone needs. It is a reuse of the same book, but I do like the color scheme and I do like the vampiric theme because, of course, I like a lot of dark stuff and monster stuff. So this, although this is cool for me to add to my collection, I do understand that not everybody will need this, but for what it is, to me, it's a cool little addition to the collection. And then maybe they could add more, like the Superman version from these comics probably will be pretty cool. But anyways, you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.